Okay, so let's briefly recap what we've done. First we had a look at factorization, okay, to find the coordinates of A and B. Okay, then we used the quadratic formula. Both of them are perfectly valid. Of course, in some situations you won't be able to factorize, okay? Well, you won't be able to factorize straight off the top of your head. It'll be too difficult, and you'll have to rely on the quadratic formula. The third method is completing the square, but before I go on to that, I'm going to look at the coordinate of the point C. Okay, so that is the intersection with the y-axis, or in other words, the intersection with the line x equals 0. Hint, hint, x is 0. Okay, so y is equal to 2 lots of 0, 2 lots of 0 squared rather, which is still 0, plus 13 lots of 0, which is 0, take away 7. So in other words, y is minus 7. So the coordinates of C are 0, minus 7. Okay, that's the easiest one to find, but you still need to be aware of how you find it. Okay, now we're going to find the coordinates of point D. Now D is the vertex, okay, and the way we do that is by completing the square. So I've left completing the square to the end, so I can then show you how to solve it to find A and B. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the equation. Okay, so bear with me. Y is equal to 2x squared plus 13x minus 7. Okay, so I'm going to now complete the square on this. Now the way I like to do it is I like to not bother with pulling 2 out of the minus 7. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to write it as 2x squared in brackets plus 13 over 2x. Okay, so I've halved 13, and I'm going to have the minus 7 on the end. Okay, I just feel that that helps with, in the long run, with the calculations. So what I'm going to do is I am going to complete the square on what is inside the bracket. Okay, so I'm going to have a double bracket with this. So I'm going to have x plus half of this coefficient, 13 halves. So a half of that is 13 quarters. Okay, all squared. Now what I'm going to get out of this is an extra 13 over 4 all squared. So I've got to take away 13 over 4 all squared. So that is 13 squared is 169, and 4 squared is 16. Okay, close bracket, and I've still got that take away 7 on the end. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply through by that 2. Okay, so I'm going to have 2x plus 13 quarters all squared, and I'm going to need to multiply the minus 169 over 16 by 2 as well. So that's going to give me minus 169 over 8. Okay, I could have multiplied the 169 by 2 and then simplified. That's pretty much what I've done, but all in one step. And I've got the takeaway 7 on the end, which I'm now going to write as minus 56 over 8. Okay, so you know, I've turned minus 7 into minus 56 over 8 to make it convenient for me to combine these two fractions. Okay, so I've just times the 7 by 8, 7 8 is 56 over 8. Okay, if I simplify that down, I just get back to minus 7. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. So this is equal to 2. I've got that x plus 13 over 4 all squared. Now if I combine these two fractions, minus 169 over 8 take away 56 over 8 is minus 225 over 8. Okay, so the vertex D is at the coordinates. Now you take the minus of the number inside the bracket, minus 13 quarters. Okay, oh, well, the opposite sign. So if this was a negative, then you would take the positive, of course. And the sign remains the same for the y coordinate of minus 225 over 8. So the x coordinate changes sign, the y coordinate stays the same. So just remember it that way. Okay, so I've completed the square, I've got the coordinates of D. If I hadn't worked out A and B, okay, what I could do is I could solve this equation here. So this is the completed square form that I had a moment ago. So in this case, y is now going to be 0 because I'm solving it. I am, in other words, finding where the parabola crosses the line y equals 0. Okay, squared, take away 225 over 8. Okay, so the first thing to do is to add 225 over 8 to both sides. Is equal to 2 lots of x plus 13 over 4 all squared. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2, so I'm going to get 225 over 16 is equal to x plus 13 quarters all squared. Recognise that I didn't square root and then divide by 2. You can't do it that way. You can't do it in those stages. Okay, you've got to divide by 2 and then square root. Otherwise, you would end up with a square root of 2. Okay, you would have to square root the 2 as well. So now I'm going to square root both sides. Square root of 225 we know is 15. Square root of 16 is 4. Okay, and remember that that is positive or negative, and that's equal to x plus 13 over 4. So let's move the 13 over 4 to the other side. Take 13 over 4 from both sides. So minus 13 over 4 plus or minus 15 over 4 is equal to x. So in other words, x is equal to either minus 13 over 4 plus 15 over 4 is 2 quarters, which is a half, or minus 13 quarters take away 15 quarters is minus 28 quarters, which is minus 7. Okay, so we have now double checked and triple checked that x must be a half or x is minus 7, giving us the coordinates of A and B again. Okay, so you need to be aware of all of these methods in order to work out those 4 important points on a parabola.